Though the tears may fall, my song will rise to you. Though my heart may fail, my song will rise to you. While there's breath in my lungs, I will praise you, Lord. In the dead of the night, I'll lift my eyes to you. When the waters rise, I'll lift my eyes to you. While there's hope in this heart, I will praise you, Lord. Sing together. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. In the darkness I'll dance, in the shadows I'll sing. The joy of the Lord is my strength. When I cannot see you with my eyes, let faith arise to you. When I cannot feel your hand in mine, let faith arise to you. God of mercy and love, I will praise you, Lord. Oh, you shine with glory, Lord of light. I feel alive with you. In your presence now I come alive. I am alive with you. There is strength when I sing. I will praise you, Lord. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. In the darkness I'll dance, in the shadows I'll sing. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. In the darkness I'll dance, in the shadows I'll sing. The joy of the Lord is my strength. When sorrow comes my way, you are the shield around me. Always you remain my courage in the fight. I hear you call my name. Jesus, I am coming, walking on the waves, reaching for your light. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. In the darkness I'll dance, in the shadows I'll sing. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Oh, the joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. In the darkness I'll dance, in the shadows I'll sing. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Amen. Good evening. Are you with us this evening? All right, I love it. Straight and direct to the point. Yes. Yes, we are with you. We are full. Don't bother us right now. We just ate. I invite you to join us in your hearts, even if your stomach is full, and lift up some praise and worship tonight. I'm excited to be here, and I love playing and making music with this talented group, but mostly I just love singing and worshiping in this space. It's just a blessing. So I invite you to join with us as we continue with King of Kings.
We were waiting without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill
trial and the change, one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love, your love, your love will never change. Higher than the mountains that I face, and stronger than the power of the grave, constant in the trial and the change, one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. On and on and on and on it goes, overwhelms and satisfies my soul, and I never ever have to be afraid. 'Cause one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. In death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid, there's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. In death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid, there's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant in the trial and the change, one thing remains, one thing remains, your Amen. Our God, we come to you tonight and worship you. And God, I ask that you would meet with us here and speak to our hearts. God, you are constant in this ever-changing and crazy world that we live in. I ask that we would pause tonight and just seek you, seek what truth you would have for us to apply to our lives tonight. God, I ask that we would enjoy this time of fellowship with you and with this church body that's here tonight. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen. We're going to sing one more song before we continue with the service. I invite you to join It's a simple song called Simplicity. I come in simplicity, longing for purity, to worship you in spirit and truth, only you. And Lord, strip it all away, till only you remain. I'm coming back to my first love, only you. And you're the reason I sing, the reason I sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you. And forever I'll sing, forever I'll sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you. I come with my broken song to you, the perfect one, to worship you in spirit and truth, only you. And give me a childlike heart, lead me to where you are. I'm coming back to my first love, only you. You're the reason I sing, the reason I sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you. And forever I'll sing, forever I'll sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you. How I love you. How I love you. How I love you. My first love. How I love you. How I love you. How I love you. My first love. Oh, and you're the reason I sing, the reason I sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you. And forever I'll sing, forever I'll sing. Yes, my heart will sing how I love you.
So, live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one for their religion. Respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours too. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you pass over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for food and the joy of living. If you see no reason to give thanks, the blame lies only on yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise into fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home.
All right, I am so glad that you're here tonight. So wherever and whenever you are, and especially if you're here, I'm really glad that you're here. So we found our way to tables. I want to take just a moment and not only welcome you, but also remind you and anybody else who may be joining us virtually that there are a couple of ways that we're trying to make this possible, not just here, but on our virtual campus as well. And so if you can't be here and you're able to view the live stream, you're more than welcome to participate with whomever you might be with in whatever room or place you're in, which you can do just by watching the live stream. We're also making Zoom links available for anybody who wants to participate that way, and we will put you in a room together so you can talk with other people. I can't promise you that you'll know any of them, but that could also be a fun experience. So I'm glad that you're here tonight, and I couldn't agree more with what Peter said. I absolutely love worshiping in this venue. It's been fun for me to be able to do that, particularly since we moved in here like about a year ago. I've been able to worship sitting out in the congregation as we prepare for worship in the foundry and at the gathering, and that has been an amazing experience. I've been able to worship really well. So the venue's great, so much fun, and fun to be able to worship with you and to be able to sing with such talented musicians. All right, around your tables, I want you to spend just a few minutes talking about what makes you angry. We're going to read a passage tonight out of James. Now, this is the passage that we studied on Sunday. So what we do here on Wednesday night is have guided table discussions about the passage that we studied on Sunday. Part of that passage involves the admonition to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So take the next few minutes as an icebreaker and talk around your tables about some of the things that make you really angry. All right, briefly, kind of wrap up your conversations in the next 35, 40 seconds, but pick one of the comments around your table, or one of the things that makes you really angry. Pick one that you can share with us in just a minute. We only have 3 tables here, so it shouldn't take very long. One of the things that you all said that you'd like to share with all of us. That is problematic. So last week I was in the middle of like our 3rd or 4th question, and I got a message from somebody on the virtual campus, and they were like, Matt, you got to start singing or dancing or something in between takes here. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So I brought Kate up here so that we could talk about the same question. So I'm like, hey, Kate, what is it that makes you really angry? And she's like, you. And then we came up with some other things, but that's the one that stuck out. So what was it? Let's start with the back table first, and we'll work our way forward. Give me one of the things you all talked about that makes you really angry. Okay. Yeah, so if you're on the virtual campus, they said kind of when people waste your time or take advantage of your time. I would agree with that. What about this table? Oh, okay. When people lie. Yeah, absolutely. What about you all? Right. Selfish people. Okay, so if you're on the virtual campus, we talked about road construction and also selfish people. All right, so here's our passage from last Sunday. This is written by James, whom scholars believe to be the brother of Christ. Also became one of the leaders in the Christian movement after the resurrection. James writes this. This is James 1, 17 to 27. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. These gifts come down from the Father, the creator of the heavenly lights, in whose character there is no change at all. He chose to give us birth by his true word, and here is the result. We are like the first crop from the harvest of everything he created. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person does not produce God's righteousness. I have to wonder, because I've thought about this over the years, and I said this on Sunday, about the number of times that James and Jesus sat around talking, around a fire, around a meal. And I had to wonder if God, in God's great wisdom, knew that one day we would start talking about things like righteous anger. So he leaves a teaching for us that anger is not something that produces God's righteousness. Therefore, with humility, set aside all moral filth and the growth of wickedness, and welcome the word planted deep inside you, the very word that is able to save you. You must be doers of the word and not only hearers who mislead themselves. Those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in a mirror. The word here, the Greek word for that is logos. L-O-G-O-S is how that would be written in English. It's pronounced logos, and it actually translates to meaning. Logos translated literally to English is meaning. And it was a common philosophical orientation during the time when this was written to focus on the idea that meaning as a concept could have been made flesh. So one of the things the Christians were teaching is that meaning was made flesh in the person of Jesus Christ, which is why you see so many references to word, particularly in the epistles and here by James as well. Those who hear but don't do the word. If you want to translate that in a way that may make more sense to you, because your brain is going to be like, he's talking about the scriptures. No? When they say that way, they're talking about, in this instance, Christ, what God meant or what God intended. So one of the ways you can translate that to make sense to you is when you see word, think to yourself what God intended for humanity to be. Those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in a mirror. They look at themselves, walk away, and immediately forget what they were like. But there are those who study the perfect law, which is the law of freedom, and continue to do it. They don't listen and then forget, but they put it into practice in their lives. They will be blessed in whatever they do. If those who claim devotion to God don't control what they say, they mislead themselves. Their devotion is worthless. True devotion, the kind that is pure and faultless before God the Father, is this: to care for orphans and widows in their difficulties, and to keep the world from contaminating us. Here's your first question. What might it look like to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger? Talk about that around your tables. It can be so difficult to learn to listen in order to understand instead of listening to respond, because sometimes we're passionate about the debate that we're in. But we also live in a culture where we're taught that we need to contribute something to the dialogue. So often, instead of listening to understand, we'll listen for the sake of responding, and that changes how we talk. Here's your next question. This comes out of verse 21. What qualifies as wickedness? What might it look like to rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness? Go ahead and talk about that for a minute. it can be incredibly easy to miss the association that's made here between anger and wickedness. But there's a reason that James' writing about wickedness comes directly after his admonition about what it takes to be slow to anger. Along those lines, here's your next question. Why might it be imperative to welcome with meekness, and this is a different translation, to welcome with meekness the implanted word, to welcome the good news or the word or what God intended planted within you? Why might that be imperative? Particularly if you're trying to rid yourself of wickedness and or anger. Go ahead and talk about that. Let me speak to that in a minute. All right, so here we are called to be doers of the word and not only hearers of the word. Here's your next question. Who have you known? Who have you known who was a doer of the word? James writes that the perfect law is the law of freedom, and that would be akin to what Paul writes about how the law of sin and death is overcome by the law of grace or the law of freedom. So here's your next question. What about the perfect law and perseverance helps us to experience blessing? What about the perfect law and perseverance helps us to experience blessing? Christ teaches that what comes out of your mouth illustrates the character of your heart. So here, his brother teaches that those who don't tame their tongue have a devotion that is worthless. Here's your question. Why do you think James advocates bridling the tongue? In the translation we read, it was taming the tongue. So why do you think that James advocates taming the tongue, without which their religion or their devotion is worthless? Talk about that around your tables. If we're not careful, it can be easy to forget that our speech has a direct effect on the spirit of the person who's listening. Here's your question. Are you surprised by how James characterizes religion that is pure and undefiled? Why or why not? Why or why not? Talk about that around your tables. Okay, so in case you're like, how did he characterize it? This is what he said. True devotion or true religion, the kind that is pure and faultless or undefiled before God, is this: to care for orphans and widows and their difficulties and to keep the world from contaminating us. That right after a series of teachings about anger and speech. In the time in which James was writing this, the people who would have been in the category of being a widow or an orphan would have been considered those who were on the margins or the fringes of society. And so the admonition there is that true religion is a religion that cares for those who are marginalized and are on the fringes of society. Here's your last question. What might God be calling you to do as a response to this passage? What might God be calling you to do as a response to this passage? Take a few minutes and talk about that. James is kind of putting forth a fairly simple concept that can be fairly difficult to put into action, but hugely productive and effective once it is, and that is this: that part of living in a broken world is to be taught an ethic that can make us believe that our anger is rightly motivated. When in reality, what James is saying is that one of the paths toward leading a life that is guided by the transformative love of Christ is to begin to understand one key distinction, and that is that while the word right, the word you and I use as right, is a shortened version of the word righteous. So when we say something is right, we're actually using just a shortened, truncated version of the word righteous. So the concept that James is working on is what we talked about Sunday, that there's a distinction between the fact that you may very well feel like you have a right to be angry, but that does not make your anger righteous. All right, we're going to take a minute and close by sharing some prayer requests, and as always, I'm going to ask if you would to go around your table and just share one thing that the people at your table can be in prayer with you about in the week to come. Do it kind of quickly, but just go around the table, share one thing that the people around your table can covenant with you to be in prayer with you about for the week to come. All right, so I asked Kate if she would come up and join me tonight because, one, I don't want to sing and dance while y'all are talking, but the other was that I thought it might be fun for the two of us to be able to talk through the same questions, so we've been doing that, and it was really enjoyable. I hope that you got something out of talking about some of this around your tables as well. Let me go ahead and offer a word of prayer for you as you prepare to leave tonight and go and live out the rest of your week. Would you pray with me? God, who has and continues to model love in action, help us to be doers of your word. We acknowledge that being doers does not earn your love, but rather expresses the love that you're growing within us, such that others might experience the liberty and freedom that comes through a saving relationship with you. Amen. So wherever and whenever you are, thanks a lot for being here tonight. Have a great evening and a great rest of your week.